This is a 2022 Toyota Venza, the second year of the second running of this nameplate adorning a Toyota, which originally came in 2009, left us in 2015, and returned anew in 2021. For this go-around, the Venza, size-wise, slots in between the RAV4 and Highlander models, but is definitely 100% an SUV, a crossover SUV. More specifically, this is a Toyota Venza Limited painted in titanium glow, which is a really interesting color. It looks gray, but in direct light, it almost has a pink hue. That definitely catches your eye. Being a Limited means it is the top trim in the lineup above the LE and XLE models. That means you roll on 19-inch wheels, have a standard 12.3-inch touchscreen, and a fancy rearview mirror and screen. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I remember a time when there were no Venzas at all. I'm old. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s. And I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a Toyota Venza LE is $34,575. The Limited starts at $42,065, and my test car did include some options and accessories and cost $45,287. With that all said, I think this is a good time to pull over and show you outside and in a bit more detail. It's bigger than a Toyota RAV4 by a few inches, smaller than a Toyota Highlander, also by a few inches. The Toyota Venza did find just a tiny touch of white space between those two SUVs. We have a generally tasteful looking front end in the Venza, I would say. This part of the grille is all blanked out. There's openings down here and of course down here, but a lot of this is blanked out as well. You do have a front mounted camera right there and a relatively tasteful, I would say, Toyota logo right there. Tiny little fog lights hang out towards the bottom. I do like this bit of chrome kind of sticking out here and here to kind of give just a bit of contrast to this otherwise dark grille. And I do think these headlights are pretty slick because they just go and go and go and go and go. Actually quite long, these things, and give it kind of a squinty, more purposeful type of look. So yeah, styling wise, pretty decent in front. Looking at the car in profile, yeah, pretty typical SUV shape these days. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions on the screen so you can check that out and get a sense. You know, we're about 6 inches longer than a RAV4 and roughly speaking 8-9 inches shorter than a Highlander. And I do have a full set of specs in the description. One thing you might notice is what looks from there like a black roof. This is a glass piece of roof, panoramic glass roof, and there's a neat trick inside. Also, you can get a sense the rear end actually has some pretty decent style here. You've got this long roof mounted spoiler, but then you've got this character line that flows into the tail lights, and then this other contour that comes out from the bumper. And you've got this heavily raked rear windshield. So there's kind of like this swoopy shape that comes out of the rear of the Venza, which I think is a bit of a highlight. You are looking at 19-inch aluminum wheels with all-season tires. That's true for the XLE and Limited models. The LE runs on 18s. And you know, it's a classy enough looking wheel. I think it fits the rest of the car, certainly. Now we're looking head on at the rear of the car. Different perspective on that steeply raked rear windshield, the roof mounted spoiler, and this full width tail light right here. You know, I think it works, honestly. I think it works. And again, I do like this chrome piece right here, just above the dark plastic bumper. And how about that? Even though it's a hybrid, we get dual exhaust tips. And yeah, there's some finishing touches on it that are a little bit much, but it's generally real. One quick note. This is not a trailer hitch. This is what Toyota calls an activity mount, a $313 accessory to install things like hitch-mounted bike racks, those types of things. This is not to tow. Yes, you can get the Venza with the kick opening tailgate. Swing your foot like this. and you get 29 cubic feet of storage space behind the second row. There's a slightly closer look. And if you need more than 29 cubic feet of storage and don't have that many people to haul around, yes, easy to do. And there you have it, 55 cubic feet of storage and room for two. Checking out the back seat. Because we're bigger than a RAV4, we are afforded decent amounts of space here. I am 5 feet 11 inches tall, or 181 centimeters, and I have a good 4 or 5 inches of knee room. The seat bottom is a little bit low, so I don't have quite as much thigh support as I hoped, but you can see that my knees are bent at less than a 90-degree angle, so it's really not that uncomfortable. Headroom is a little bit pinched. I would say I have about negative ½ inch of a headroom, but I do also have this pretty incredible piece of glass that goes all the way through the back seat. And all you see right now, it looks kind of grayed out. Let me show you a little bit more of that once we get to the front seat. Back here we do have a couple of USB ports to charge devices, things like that, vents, and of course, if there's not a third passenger in the center, we do have an armrest and cup holders. What luxury. It's pleasant enough back here. It is much nicer in front. This is a pretty dark interior, but it's not purely black, so it's something. You know, you have this brown tone, gray tone, and this wood veneer kind of look here, and then black down low. You can fit big bottles down in this space here. Do have the typical controls on the door here, 2-position seat memory, so the usual things. We do have 8-way power adjustable drive seat, and because this is the Limited, we do have a 4-way adjustable passenger seat as well. And you can see we have nice and healthy bolsters up top, and actually pretty decent bolsters down low as well. These are both nice looking and comfortable seats back here. I'm quite happy with the seats that Toyota chose to put in the Venza. Lovely little metal kick plate right here, and fun assortment of switches right here. The heated steering wheel is definitely a nice touch if you live in Michigan like I do. And yes, we have adjustable tilt and telescope electrically right here for the steering. In between two actual gauges right there is a 7-inch multi-information display, and next to that is a 12.3-inch center console touchscreen. Standard on the LE and XLE models is an 8-inch screen. Push button start is tucked away down here. And there is your instrument cluster all lit up. So you can see we have a speedometer to the right here, and not a tachometer, but kind of like how much power you're consuming, or maybe even charging a little bit, eco power, etc. And with this dial right here, you can actually make a lot of adjustments to the MID. Scrolling to the top one, you can see I can also scroll over and get a lot of different options here, or I can scroll down and get other kinds of options this way. This is a fun one because this is 4-wheel drive on demand. You can see when the Toyota thinks you're demanding it. Here in settings, there's a lot of adjustments you can make to the different driving aids, and if you have any warnings or messages, they display down there. Above that, we have a 10-inch head-up display. That is part of the advanced technology package, which also includes rain-sensing wipers, and it costs $725. Here is the 12.3-inch screen lit up. I thought this was a fun little trick. So you have these little seat climbing options right here, heated seats, ventilated seats, etc. If you close it here, it pops up on this side. Close it here, pops up on this side. So you always get it a little bit on the screen, but you can choose which side you want it. The Venza does come standard with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It is wired, and the plugins for it are way down here, right down there, and just in front of that, that is an also standard wireless smartphone charger, and that is a nice touch. And that right here is the power to it, so you can turn it on or off right there. A couple of buttons down here, that's your EV mode if you want to be an EV for short stints, and a few different drive modes. I'll talk more about those in just a moment. Pretty standard looking shifter, couple of cup holders, and some more storage down here. And also, if you'd rather, this is another place to adjust your heated and ventilated seats. There's some interesting things when you look up. First of all, this is an integrated dash cam. So if you want to record what's going on, this is a dealer accessory you can get for the Venza, and this is what it looks like. I haven't used it, but it looks kind of cool. Also, here's your rear view mirror, But if the rear view mirror is blocked for any kind of reason, maybe you've got cargo loaded up high, whatever, it is also a camera. So you have that option. And then of course you have settings for that camera to adjust it just as you wish. And looking up even further, there is the front view of our panoramic piece of glass. Now, this is an electrochromic piece of glass. So right now it's kind of frosted out. You don't really see anything, but push this button here and it becomes a translucent piece of glass just like that. So I'm hitting the button again. That's how long it takes. That is a $1,400 option, but it is also a very cool parlor trick. And even if you have it frosted, you can also close the privacy panel as well. So full privacy, I suppose, but also a lot darker in here. Now, let's talk drive modes, but I'm not going to actually go through the drive mode dial just yet because there is a different kind of drive mode built into the shifter. If you put it in drive and then put it in S, this gives you access to a sequential shifter. And if you upshift or downshift, you can see these numbers changing here. What that does is telling the engine that you want more performance out of it or less, even though you're not actually shifting real gears back and forth. And if you're already moving quickly and you ask for lower gears, S1 being the lowest, that's going to give you more regenerative braking, so more deceleration before you hit the brake. So that is an adjustment you can do by having the shift lever in S instead of D. Okay, drive modes. You have 3 drive modes. Sport, normal, eco. Pretty straightforward. These are powertrain adjustments and fairly self-explanatory what they do. Sport will give you the most performance, most aggressive throttle map, eco the least, normal in between. And I think we should play around with that a little bit. Let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. There's actually only one powertrain across all Venzas. It is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine hybrid with a slew of electric motors to help out in various ways. The engine itself has a 14:1 compression ratio, but it is also an Atkinson cycle engine. That means it has a 14:1 expansion ratio and a less than 14:1 compression ratio, but hey, still a cool number. It also has an electric motor to help with variable valve timing on the intake camshaft, one of the electric motors I was thinking about. Though interesting enough, there is also variable valve timing on the exhaust side, and that is not electric motor driven. On its own, this 4-cylinder engine makes 176 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque, but with the help of the electric motors, peak output is 219 horsepower. So clearly, the engine is doing the lion's share of the work, but the electric motors do help a lot when the engine's spinning at lower RPMs, so that's why you don't see it as much in the peak outputs. Speaking of engine RPMs, this has an eCVT, or electric continuously variable transmission, and that means there's no actual gears, but the system kind of gives the perception of gears, the way the engine revs climb and fall as you accelerate and things like that. And there is yet another electric motor mounted on the rear axle. That is what provides all-wheel drive. It is an on-demand all-wheel drive system, which means this is a front-wheel drive car unless the system determines traction is needed at the rear axle. But Toyota claims that in slippery conditions, the electric motor in back can provide up to 80% of the torque, which makes me wonder a little bit what Toyota means by slippery conditions, but I would assume that we're talking about snow or icy conditions. Now, getting back to that eCVT, we've got this little system called sequential shifting. So we have a sport mode in the Prindle, S instead of D. And in that system, I'm just switching to it now, we're now showing S4, and you can hear that the engine revs climbed up just a little bit. I can flick it down to S3, and as you can hear, now we have even higher RPMs. The engine is more responsive in S3 than it would have been in S4, and both are more responsive than it would have been in D. And indeed, if I accelerate, we get a pretty quick reaction, although there is still, quarter to half second of delay there. The other thing about sequential shifting is the lower the number you see, and we're currently in S3, the more regeneration you'll get, the more deceleration you'll get when you lift off the throttle. So when I lift off the throttle now, yeah, that's definitely more than just coasting down. And as I slow down, if I go to S2, I get even more deceleration, and if I continue, S1 gives me even just a little bit more. So it gives you a little bit of control over deceleration rates and things like that, and you do get a little bit more battery charging just by lifting off the throttle that way, but it's not the most engaging transmission I've ever worked with. But you know, hey, something's better than nothing, isn't it? And generally speaking, this is a better than expected, a healthier than expected powertrain. Considering that this is hybrid only and that the car is definitely not geared towards the enthusiast, the engine, you know, is reasonably responsive and reasonably quick. You have decent hustle. And you also actually get pretty decent fuel economy. This isn't a large SUV, but it's not that small either. It would fit 4 adults comfortably, and despite that, you do get 40 miles to the gallon in the city, 37 on the highway, 39 combined. Really pretty decent results, and that's regardless of which trim you choose, LE, XLE, or Limited. But while of course that's important, fuel economy is not nearly as much fun as accelerating, and yes, I definitely had to test it. Let me show you that now. All right, time for an acceleration test. I do have the car in sport mode, and I have the traction control off, and I have 219 horsepower to work with. Let's see what we get out of it. Coming to a complete stop. See if it likes brake torque. Yeah, we're getting some brake torque. Off we go. Ah, not bad. Yeah, there was kind of a weird delay before we started getting moving when I lifted off the brake, but once we did, we're moving along pretty well. This is stout acceleration. This is better than I expected, truly. Wow, yeah. Okay, so it's not gonna blow your socks off. It's not gonna yank you back into your seat or anything like that, but yeah, that was completely reasonable, swift, sprightly acceleration from this Toyota Venza. More than I expected, better than I expected. Yeah, really not bad. All right, I just gave you that whole spiel about this is not tuned for the enthusiast, but this car does have something called active cornering assist to help reduce understeer, and it does also have a sport mode, driving mode, so yeah, why not, I said. I wanted to see how it could handle. I tested that as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a handling test in this Toyota Venza hybrid. I do have the car in sport mode, and I do also have the stability control and traction control off. See what we get. Yeah, pretty decent power considering everything. Not a lot of grip, but not a lot of understeer either, it must be said. A fair amount of body roll. Still not a lot of grip. You know, this is a softly sprung, softly tuned car. It's very comfortable on the road, which we will get to in a moment. But as a result, we don't have a lot of grip or performance here. You know, front end response is reasonable considering everything. Chassis balance isn't actually all that bad. We do have that active cornering assist to help mitigate understeer, and I think that is helping. But, you know, this is not a performance SUV by any measure. I don't think anyone had expected it to be, and they will not be disappointed with their expectations. It's fine. It's totally competent, totally comfortable, very stable. That was traction control and stability control off. Everything felt rock solid stable. So nothing to worry about, just not much to enjoy either. All right, to a more inherently comfortable issue for this Toyota Venza, ride, how it feels on the road, how it feels on the interstate. Yes, it's very, very good. The suspension tune, the shock absorbers, even the tires do cater to a very pleasant ride. It's quiet, it's comfortable, it handles heaves in the road, bumps, all with no drama. And that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. Yes, I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, time for a quick stint on the interstate. See how this Toyota Venza feels. Something tells me this will be a little bit more up its alley, but let's find out. Okay, we are up to speed, moving with traffic right around 78 miles an hour. I do have the adaptive cruise control on, and the Venza does have Toyota Safety System 2.0, which means we have the usual battery of stuff, including adaptive cruise control, of course, lane tracing assist, lane departure alert, and on and on and on. But quickly, let's go over the fundamentals. Road noise, pretty darn good, pretty darn quiet in here. Wind noise, pretty good, not quite as strong as road noise. You can hear some things gusting around the side view mirrors and things like that, but generally this is a very quiet, very pleasant place to be. The seats are extremely comfortable. The suspension is extremely soft and supple, so when we were leaning over a little bit in the corners, well, now we're benefiting from that because any little bumps or heaves in the road are being absorbed with zero trouble at all. We've got this nice big 12.3-inch infotainment screen to look at. Fundamentally, this thing all works well. And now I'm going to take my hands off the steering wheel and see how lane trace assist works. Yep, so we have a subtle curve in the interstate, and it's following that with no trouble at all, pretty much right in the center of the lane. And yep, just got the pleasant warning, please put your hands back on the wheel. Happy to. So yeah, lane tracing assist, of all the lane keep / lane centering systems that are out there, I think works the best, and it continues to work the best in this Venza as well. So lovely, perfectly pleasant road trip car. I'd be very happy to spend time in here. I think it's pretty clear that this is not built for the enthusiast. There's no XSE trim for the Venza to start. It is hybrid only, and the powertrain is respectable, but it is certainly not powerful, right? Everything about this car is comfort, simplicity, convenience, gadgets. You have a nice big 12.3-inch center console touchscreen. You have wireless phone charging. You have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You have a heads-up display, very comfortable seats, and a lot of space as well. So this car really is for someone that just wants to settle down and get from point A to point B comfortably. And they don't mind the fact that it's pretty miserly at the pump as well. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I would really appreciate it if you like this video. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Okay, goodbye. Time to settle in. Just have a nice little trip.